So it's pretty obvious that we can't expect Wizards of the Coast to do or address much about the ongoing print quality issue that is reaching about year two. At least anything proactive. I, for one, went on record and thought that the From the Vault print quality was better, but then I was properly corrected by Rudy, who told me that the cards appear to be more rigid, mostly because they're double-sided foils, that it hadn't necessarily meant that they fixed anything with the stock. And he's right. I was incorrect about that. One thing I pointed out with them, though, is that every one was a different version of miscut. Look at, for example, how skinny that top border is there, right? And how wide. You know what? Actually, let me go to an overhead so you can maybe see a little bit better. But the point of this video is not to point out misprints and miscuts that are going on right now, because we all know they are. They used to be something we would collect, that there are entire Facebook communities with thousands of members of people that collect this. It used to be an odd thing, but it's basically status quo now. So you'll see in the same pack, we have this Kaladesh with a very thin top border, a much larger bottom border, and left to right, it looks okay. Out of the same box, we have Arling Cord. We have a very skinny left border, a much wider right border, and looks like a slightly oversized top border. Now, you can argue that that might be nitpicky, and you may be right. To me, for the price I paid for From the Vault, it's not okay. There's some basic. There's a basic agreement that companies enter in when they sell you a product, and that is it's not defective. Now, with cardboard, it's really hard to probably argue that, the card can't be played in this form. And so my case may be a little weak. However, the reality is, in the collectible market, a card that is properly cut on both sides in the current market, on top, bottom, left, and right, has a higher value than one that has these errors. Now, the occasional error can be forgiven, but we are now in a sustained period of poor quality. I've made 2 to 3 videos that, this seems small. It's bigger because I had to pay so much money from the vault. Most of you have opened up booster packs and noticed many small anomalies, foils that are bending, all sorts of issues out of the pack. Wizards cannot address this publicly. I, in fact, was the one that shared with Rudy that they can't do this because it would open them up to a massive, at least possibility of a class action lawsuit. Imagine if you are an oil company. I don't know if this is a perfect example or not, but I think it's something you can at least get the gist. And you were selling like 5W30. The bottle said 5W30 oil, and everyone was buying that. But in fact, some bottles were like 4W30, and some bottles were like 6W30. And most of the cars out there were unaffected, but some were. And that's kind of how I view this misprint issue. It depends how critical you are of how your cards look, but there is no denying that it directly affects the value of said card on the secondary market, something Wizards of the Coast cannot publicly address. Alas, though, I have a solution for you where you can get all of your damaged cards replaced free, and Wizards of the Coast will also, I've been told, compensate you for the cost of shipping. Now, since we've made many videos, and yes, I realize the Magic YouTube community is not we're small in comparison to the overall Magic the Gathering community. I don't know if they've ever seen any of these print quality issue videos. We know we had to literally beg some of the larger people in the community to address it. And, I'm assuming they saw that, but I actually think I have a great way where us, the consumers, the ones that spend our hard-earned money, for those of us that don't have a ton of expendable cash and paying upwards of $4 a booster pack and having cards come damaged is a big deal. And for us to get some retribution, I think I have a twofold solution. One, we're going to go through Wizards of the Coast's own solution to the product. I'm going to link this in the description below. They have a difficult to find customer support page. If you have purchased any one of our Magic the Gathering products via retail and discover a defect with that product, we can help you with the replacement. Now, miscuts, cards bending prematurely, artifacts in the print, missing hollows. These are all very easily described as defects. Confirm whether your product is on the list. So let's look at the list first. Now, some reason, it's really annoying. You have to repick the product every time, but we all know their website has been pretty poor for a long time. What we see here is basically the list of all the most recent products. So if you have anything on this list, it's frustrating. Here, look, from the Vault Transform. I, for one, will be sending back every one of these cards. Now, is it that big of a deal to me? No. However, most Magic players, myself included, have that same attitude. We're just it's not that big of a deal. And that's the problem. That's why these things get to persist. And since us vocally requesting them to do this, to make a change or make a statement, has fallen on deaf ears, I actually think thousands of people rightfully, I'm not saying to just request cards that aren't effective. I don't have to do that. I can look over the camera and see thousands of cards that are defective. I'm very strongly considering filling up a 900 count box of miscut cards, damaged cards, and sending them back. And I think every one of you should. And even if they weren't refunding you the cost of shipping, it doesn't matter. Imagine a small, unadvertised department like this probably gets 1 to 2 cards a week. If us as a community, if Magic players decide, you know what, I'm going to take the 5 minutes to put my foot down and say, you know what, no, this isn't okay. I'm okay going without this card for a few weeks while this goes through this replacement process. Imagine if literally 10% of the people that watch this video that have miscut cards, and if you've bought product lately, I guarantee you do. If you send them in and demand replacements by their own policy, what's going to happen? That little old lady or that little unpaid intern that gets 2 packages a week is going to come into the office on Monday or Tuesday and see 1,000 or 2,000 rightful requests. This is something as consumers, we are completely in the right. If you were to go to the store and buy a blender and 2 of the 3 blades were dull, you could take that item back to the store and get a replacement. Clearly, Wizards has rightfully addressed that with this link. What they know is many of us Magic players are either too busy or we're just too nice to do it. But you shouldn't feel bad about this. This is a company who has clearly developed a program to accept the replacements, and we need to start doing it. Because if we don't, maybe we give them, if we don't do this, we continue to give them the excuse that, well, we don't really hear that many complaints. We don't see that many. And maybe there's some small percentage of chance, the small percentage, I don't believe it to be true, but in fairness, maybe they don't. Maybe the one guy or gal in charge of this, the one who needs to set off this sort of change or signal consumer unrest with this product, maybe they don't know. Maybe they're not paid enough to care. But if they come into work on Monday or Tuesday and there's 5,000 of us rightfully requesting replacements for damaged cards, well, don't you think that they're going to have to address it? I think this is the next logical step for us as consumers of Magic the Gathering products to try and get them to address this. It is not acceptable for a company continue to put out trash. They are literally printing money with these cards, okay? They have to do it right. And if nobody's holding them accountable, well, who do we have to blame other than ourselves? Now, there's a link. And by the way, you can actually do this internationally. And, even if they don't replace your postage, I think if you're buying Magic product, you have an extra 25 cents. They tell you how to send it. Put it in a top loader. Send it. Here's the whole process, okay? In chapter and verse. Today is Friday, Thursday. Grab a handful of your defective cards and send them in. Me, I'm going to send in over 1,000. And I don't care if they pay for my shipping. I'll put it in a flat rate bubble mailer and I'll fill that thing to the brim and I will demand single replacements for every single one of them. This problem has to become something they can no longer silence and can no longer deal with some half-hearted internal replacement program. Now, I commend Wizards for having this because all signs point to them following through and replacing damaged cards. But don't just hold this to rares. If you have uncommons or commons that are damaged, it still has to qualify for replacement. I recommend reading through this. Be polite, okay? All we're asking for here is that the company that made a product that we as the consumer paid for honors that agreement. It's no different than the same contract you have with Walmart or Amazon or whatever company you buy from. Opening a pack of cards where the cards have printing issues is damaged. The quality of the card is part of the product. And we have to stop being so complacent. We have to take a little temporary pain, meaning it's going to kind of be a pain in the butt to fill out this form. But this is the next logical step. We've already whined about it on Twitter. We've whined about it on Facebook. We've whined about it on YouTube. None of these things should stop. Every time Wizards of the Coast posts something unrelated to print quality, be polite, but we should be reminding them, hey, what about the print quality? And you know what? Worst case scenario, all of you are going to get your cards replaced. That's the worst case scenario here, is that you get your card fixed. And at minimum, we make a statement. Best case scenario, we overwhelm the department and force them to address this. Either way, this is a win. This is good for everybody in the Magic the Gathering consumer base. And I think this is the next logical thing we as consumers should do. So again, be polite, but we need to take advantage of this. We need to hold them accountable to what is now going on 2 years of pretty clear apathetic or non-committal internal handling of all these issues. Sorry, if you're on my live stream last night, you know I was up till about 5 a.m. and I'm kind of tired, but it's important I get this guide out there, and I do implore you, while you're watching this video, or I have a second video coming out later tonight, while you're watching that, gather up all your miscut cards and your artifact cards and your bent foils, fill out this form, and get your replacement, because after all, that's what you paid for. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.